Hi, I'm Emily Storms from Detroit, and I am here to tell you about some of the most influential rock bands from my home city, according to me. So, we're going to do this in chronological order. First is the MC5. If you want to understand Detroit rock, you start with the MC5. Formed in Lincoln Park in 1964, they became the house band of a revolution, playing free shows in Detroit's inner city, aligning with the White Panther Party, and releasing Kick Out the Jams in 1969, one of the most explosive live albums ever recorded. They were proto-punk before punk had a name, politically confrontational, sonically aggressive, and completely ahead of their time. They only made 3 albums before breaking up in 1972, but their influence runs through virtually every punk and hard rock band that came after them. Next came the Stooges. The MC5 had the politics. The Stooges had the chaos. Iggy Pop formed the band in Ann Arbor in 1967, and what they created was something that genuinely scared people. Raw, confrontational, and completely unhinged. Funhouse in 1970 is still considered one of the most ferocious rock records ever made. Iggy was rolling in broken glass and diving into crowds before stage diving was even a concept. The band fell apart by 1974, mostly due to heroin and record label indifference. But when punk exploded in 1976 and 77, every major act pointed back to the Stooges. They reunited in 2003 and finally got their flowers. Next is a band that a lot of people sleep on. Destroy All Monsters started in Ann Arbor in 1973 as an avant-garde art collective, co-founded by artists Mike Kelly and Niagara. They were doing noise rock and experimental art installations before either of those things had scenes. By the late 70s, the lineup had shifted, with guitarist Ron Ashton of the Stooges and bassist Michael Davis of the MC5 joining the group. Vocalist Niagara was their iconic frontwoman, glamorous, menacing, and totally original. They released a string of singles that are cult classics in the garage and punk underground. They weren't commercially successful, but they were genuinely unique and ahead of their time. And Niagara wasn't just a rock vocalist, she was a serious visual artist. Her paintings, often featuring femme fatale figures in bold graphic styles, became highly collectible. She has shown her work in galleries internationally and is genuinely considered a significant figure in the lowbrow and pop surrealist art circles. Next is, dare I say, one of my favorites on the list. The Trash Brats are Detroit rock royalty. High energy, hook-driven, and completely unapologetic. Guitarist Ricky Ratt, bassist Tony Romeo, and vocalist Brian Oblivion are the heart of the band. 3 guys who wrote some genuinely iconic Motor City hits. Big guitars, big choruses, and an attitude that was pure Detroit. They built their following the old-fashioned way, by showing up and playing their guts out on the local circuit night after night. They never chased trends, they never watered it down, they just kept delivering. And Ricky Ratt is still at it, still touring, still bringing that Detroit rock energy to the stages. In what is possibly one of the most iconic moments in Detroit rock history, the Trash Brats took the stage at Detroit's State Theater, opening for none other than Kid Rock on March 10th, 1995, and the crowd was not having it. Kid Rock fans threw food, drinks, spit, straight at the stage. But here's the thing about the Trash Brats. That energy didn't faze them at all. It made them play even harder. And for nearly 50 minutes, they gave it right back. By the end, they had earned that room whether the crowd wanted to give it to them or not. And that's just not just a good show, that's Detroit rock and roll. And then there were the Demolition Doll Rods, possibly the most wild and genuinely transgressive band Detroit produced in the 1990s. Formed around 1993, the core of the band was Danny and Margaret Dollrod, and they performed with an intensity and rawness that felt almost confrontational. Heavily influenced by the Stooges and the MC5, they stripped rock down to something primal, minimal gear, maximum energy, and a stage presence that was part performance art. They toured relentlessly through the American underground and released 4 full-length albums before they ultimately broke up in 2007. They're a direct link between Detroit's founding noisemakers and the early 2000s garage rock revival. The Demolition Doll Rods were doing this in 1993. Some people got very famous doing the same thing a few years later without giving any credit. Just saying.